Dan Naylor, we were talking about Assassin's Creed Syndicate because both you and I are fans of the series, correct, mate?
Yeah, big fan of the series here. But yeah, we were talking, and let's face it, I think pre-release we weren't too happy about it, like being a yearly thing, were we?
Well, I was just concerned with it because, I spoke to Colin Mahern about it when he went and played it, and like there was a lot of things like the fact they called. We'll get to it, but there was a lot of things that made me sort of go, Then you played it, and you've finished it, and you've reviewed it, and this is a video review, obviously. But I played a bit of it too, and because I wanted to play it because you told me that it was really good, which seemed surprising because everyone's kind of down on this series. Maybe I think wrongly so because I enjoy Unity. I know you did, and Mikey, our reviewer, did, but you were really high on Syndicate, and you said a thing that I want to ask you about here, is that you said the characters were the best you could recall since Ezio, and I said to you, that's a bold statement to make, and I'm saying that to you again now. That is a bold statement to make.
Yeah, the characters work. In a lot of the past Assassin's Creed games, I mean, ranging from Connor, who was just shit, in 3, I don't think you can get around it, he was just shit, through to, maybe Edward was pretty good as a pirate, but he kind of just did things, and his character didn't kind of relate to the story, is I think what I meant. Whereas here, they fit in, and all the other characters fit in as well. So Jacob and Evie are really strong. Like, their motivations for doing things in the story are like, oh, that's what they do because that's the type of person they are. If you know what I mean.
Evie's great. I've only played 2 hours, but I think Evie is fantastic. I mean, Jacob's fine.
Evie's fantastic. I mean, Jacob is kind of charming. He kind of blunders into situations a little bit. It's quite violent and does things kind of more without thinking. That's his personality, and all his missions in the game reflect that. Evie is more like kind of refined, a bit more strategic. That's the word I'm looking for. And she just, she thinks about things, and that shows in how she controls, but also how she approaches her missions as well. And that's all absolutely fantastic. And in the game, there's certain bits where Jacob goes and fucks one or two things up, and the next mission is Evie going back and kind of sorting them all out. And she makes little comments and stuff. But the best bit about them is their sibling relationship, because obviously they're twins, they're brother and sister, and Evie was born 4 minutes earlier than Jacob, and just the way they interact when they're together, because they're not always together, but in most cutscenes they are. And they interact together, and the little kind of comments and little quips and the kind of annoyances that you have with a sibling. Like, the kind of relationship they have, I recognise the exact same one from me and my sister. And I think getting that across in a game is very, very impressive indeed.
It is. There's one thing I want to actually mention, just because if I don't mention it now, I'm frightened I'll forget it, because I think this is actually quite a big deal. The thing about Assassin's Creed games, for me, is that I kind of accepted and made peace with the fact a long time ago that they are third-person action-adventure games. And despite the fact that the game is called Assassin's Creed, they're not really stealth games. And I've not played as much of it as you, so do correct me. That's why you're here, really. But there's a stealth button in Syndicate that I don't recall being in a game in the series before.
Well, Unity had its stealth kind of. I think you held in L2, I think, to go into kind of stealth mode, but it didn't have the same effect. Here, stealth mode is you go down, you go nice and low, you crouch down, your Assassin's Creed
like
comes
the touch
up.
where you take the hat off, like he takes his flat cap up and puts his. I don't know why, but that's kind of cool.
Yeah, but it does affect how the range enemies will spot you at and things like this, because you've got like a ring. I don't know if you remember Metal Gear Solid 4, I think it was, and it had that kind of ring where it showed where enemies were. Right. Like little blips on it appeared around Snake when he was crouching. And it's the same thing here, except there's lines like up and down on the ring to show whether an enemy's higher or lower. And that's really cool. And this stealth mode, it kind of, you press into a wall, you'll go into cover and things like this. You can hide behind enemies. And that actually works quite well, doesn't it? It works fantastically well. And as I said, the character's quite different. So Evie, there's skill trees that you can kind of expand, and Evie's kind of leads you towards, they're basically identical, but they've both got a couple of individual ones, and Evie's are...
That's one thing I want to ask you about, actually, the skill trees. Because I kind of liked them because, like, really early on, like, if you're half decent at the game, like, I was immediately able to go into stealth mode and use my eagle vision to see through walls, tag people, and it made me feel like a stealth assassin badass, basically. But I wasn't. I mean, again, very initial impressions from me. That's why you're here to sort of give a in-depth view. I wasn't too sure about the fact that although the skill trees appear quite similar, they are separate skill trees for both the characters. As you unlock the skill points, is it like you've unlocked 5 skill points and you can spend them on either character, or is it you've unlocked 5 as Evie and you've unlocked 3 as Jacob?
What you do is, when you unlock skill points, you unlock them for both characters. It's the same amount for both characters to use individually. Right. And you have to go into their separate skill trees to do it and upgrade them. But no, you unlock everything everything's basically unlocked together, but can be spent separately on that mode, and the same as in gear as well. You equip gear for them separately and things, but you unlock the gear at the same time for both of them to use.
Gotcha.
If you see what I mean. Same with money and things like this. But yeah, Evie's later ones are much more stealth tailored. I mean, the one I've just got is one of hers, and it's kind of a final power. I say just got towards the end of the game, and it meant that when she's stationary and in stealth mode, she basically goes invisible, so enemies just can't see her, and it allows you to play as a kind of like you said, kind of a badass assassin, and the best comparison I can think of is, do you remember the stealth rooms from the Batman games, the Arkham games? And Batman would kind of, he'd hide in the rafters and then drop down, kill an enemy, shoot back up. You have that because of the grappling gun. Now, a lot was made of the grappling gun, and I was quite down on it at first when I first saw it was in the game. But actually, it's fantastic because you don't have to... Running up buildings actually wasn't that much fun in the Assassin's Creed games. Free running over the top of them, that was great. And this grapple helps that. So, you're on top of a building and suddenly, like, there's an enemy down there you want to assassinate, you drop down, assassinate them, and then you can just immediately back on the rooftop straight away, disappearing without a trace, confusing enemies, and all that kind of jazz. But then, as you're making your escapes, London's got some wide roads, especially in this period. And one of the big things about Assassin's 3 was it kind of cut out all the free running and didn't replace it, because it had the wide areas between buildings, but you couldn't cross them. Here, your grapple combines as a zip line, so you can just shoot straight across these gaps without breaking stride, basically. And it really just kind of it keeps the momentum going, the free running, which is fun, but cuts out the kind of slow, awkward climbing. I mean, the climbing is still great. It still kept the kind of one button to go climb up, one button to climb down mechanic that Unity introduced that I really liked.
Yeah, that was the whole idea made it more smoother, didn't it?
Yeah, so and that is useful for smaller bits, but on big buildings, because some of the buildings are huge. The clock tower of Westminster Palace, people know it as Big Ben. Climbing that by hand would be killer in this game. But grapple press, you're at the top, and at first it feels like cheating, but as you play the game, you're kind of really glad that you've got it. But it's just fantastic.
There's a few things we should quickly touch upon. The combat, to me, I mean, they've kind of gone full Arkham, haven't they? I mean, that's the way it appeared to me.
Yeah, I mean, you've got an attack, you've got your counter, you've got your breaker, which is on X, as well as your tool, which is on triangle, so that's either your gun or some throwing knives or smoke bomb. It's very similar to what the Assassin's games have been so far. It's that kind of, okay, right, when the enemy flashes, you counter and do that.
It's not hard, is it?
It's not hard, but later in the game, when you kind of got to crowd manage a bit more, it gets a little bit tricky. One cool thing is, you can leave enemy, if you damage enemy enough, they're in like a near-death state, and they'll kind of like bend over winded, and if you don't kill them immediately, they'll kind of get back up and start fighting again, but they're out for a couple of moments, and you can just kill them. But if you have a couple of them in that state, you'll do some kind of cool finisher moves between them, like just like throw your knife into one, and then break another one's arm and grab the knife back and then cut the second one's throat again, kind of thing. And it just kind of adds a nice kind of rhythm to the combat, which is pretty damn cool.
I didn't really know what I'd done to trigger it, but it was really cool. I don't really, because the fact that you've not mentioned this means it probably isn't much, but it's an Assassin's Creed game, and after Unity, which, for the record, I didn't see the glitches and bugs everyone talked about, but the one thing I think about Syndicate is, although I think it's a really good-looking game, I do think in my head, Unity looks better, and I do feel that I wonder if with Unity they went for this incredibly this visual spectacle, but that's actually what made the engine struggle, because I haven't seen too much. That the frame rate's pretty consistent of what I've played, and obviously again you've played more. Have you seen any? I've got to ask, haven't I? Have you seen bugs, glitches, stuff like that?
Well, I've seen a couple of bugs and glitches. I mean, they're that few and far between, and almost not worth mentioning. The frame rate dropped once during a carriage chase, quite early on in the game. But to be honest, that was it. Other than that, it's been solid. I've not really seen any. There's been no game-breaking bugs. It's not crashed on me. It takes an age to load, but London's quite a big area that they've got to cover. You mentioned that the graphics there and how you think they're a bit below Unity. I would disagree, I think. I mean, it looks absolutely gorgeous, and some of the facial tech in cutscenes is fantastic. I mean...
Yeah, no, I will agree with you there.
Jacob and Evie look like real people.
They do. It's fantastic. I really like the two of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic there. And there's moments where it's like, this is absolutely gorgeous. Like, crossing the Thames at night and this fog, and you can see Big Ben in the distance and the clock face lit up is a special moment. So it does look glorious. Maybe it's a step down, but the engine's definitely handling whatever they're doing better this time around.
I mean, I'm going to keep playing this because maybe I've played too much Metal Gear, but the way in the opening missions you approach, it feels like these staging areas, like where you have to kind of scope around and use your eagle vision and find people, and then you could get in and you have to assassinate and get out. It played really well, and I really liked the characters, like you say. So it sounds like you're very high on this. I mean, where are we talking? Like better than Unity? Where is this?
It's better than Unity. This is the best Assassin's Creed game since Brotherhood. Black Flag was very good, but it wasn't really an Assassin's game.
But if you had, let's say top three. Let's say what in your head. At this point, what is the best Assassin's Creed game? The number 1, 2, and 3 slot. And I know how you feel about Black Flag, but include that because it is still called Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. This is difficult. I could put this top
Fucking
at the
hell.
moment, and I mean it would probably be this Assassin's Creed 2 and then Black Flag for me. And I know people are going to be angry because Brotherhood was better than 2 empirically, but I prefer 2. So ignore that. But this game is the full realization of the potential of that original 2007 trailer, where Altair was running across the things. There's very little of the social stealth that game promised, where you hide in crowds. You can do it. You don't really need to. It doesn't really serve a purpose.
Are there any trailing missions?
Not really.
That's
no,
great.
Not really.
I fucking hate them.
Like yeah,
to go along a rooftop. Oh no, he's gone out of view. He hasn't. I know where he is. Nobody has because the game says, "All right, okay, whatever."
I'm not even sure if there's any enforced stealth missions either, which is what I like, because like Metal Gear does this, where you can plan your mission perfectly, and if something goes wrong, you can fight your way out of it. In this, it's kind of the same. The worst case scenario is a target will run. If you get into a fight with their bodyguards, they'll run, and if you lose them, that's it. But if you chase but it can lead to just chases through the streets or just fights if they turn to the side and fight, and that kind of thing. So if you if you suck at stealth, you can still play this game, but it changes how you play it. And I really like that because there is different approaches. It is like it reminds me of Dishonored in a lot of ways because it marks out like entry points to buildings where a target is in your eagle vision now,
right? And
there can be like 5 or 6 different approaches to one building, and each one will change how you kind of handle and what challenges you'll encounter inside.
That's all new, isn't it? Because all of that, I was looking at those where it's like entry points. Like, what's going on? Have I missed something? That all seem new to me.
Again, I think I vaguely remember Unity having them, but only on a couple of occasions, and even then it was only like a choice of like the door or the window.
You can jump through it, carry on out the other side. It was more about like a free running thing, whereas this feels more about planning. I mean, we haven't even talked about the horse cart stuff, like you can draw. I was kind of surprised when I suddenly got in a horse, drove it round, started smashing into people, then, I lost them. It's like GTA, I lost the cops kind of thing.
It is, yeah. I mean, well, there's cops on the street now who'll who'll intervene if you get into a fight. And yeah, you get these carriage chases that are a lot like GTA, where you just kind of hijack one, drive for a bit. And I must admit, because that original trailer where they were kind of bashing them and showed off the gameplay was very down on that.
Yep.
And I think to watch, it does look ridiculous.
It actually controls well, though.
But it controls well, and it feels great while you're playing them. To be honest, they are probably... The carriage chases might be the low point of the game. Simply because some of them drag on a little long, and...
But you could say that about GTA when you just can't lose the police. It's frustrating, isn't it? You want to get on with it.
Exactly. There's times when, it's exactly that. It's exactly that, where you kind of just want to get on, and this is kind of stopping you. They're the only points where I think I had to retry a mission more than once.
Okay.
Which, and I don't think I died too much. I mean, it's not maybe the hardest Assassin's Creed game, but it is bloody good, mate. It's bloody good.
On that note, if you want more Assassin's Creed Syndicate, go to godisageek.com and read Dan's full written review, of course. Other than that, thank you for your time, Dan, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Poor man, more afraid than ever. The years have not been kind.
PV Fry, where do you get it from?
The same place as you, Jacob.